The pleasure of introducing Teresa Botta Orfilia, who holds a PhD in biomedicine. So she works at the Hcb-Idibaps Research Institute of Hospital Clinic of Barcelona in Barcelona, Spain. Dr. Orfilia is a coordinator of the Biological Fluid Bank, which is one of the 3 sections of the Hcb-Idibaps Biobank. The other 2 sections are the Tumor Bank Biobank and the Neurological Tissue Biobank. The Biological Fluid Bank primarily stores DNA samples for genetic analysis. It also makes available a large number of serum and plasma samples. So thank you for joining us today, Dr. Orfilia. We really look forward to hearing about the Hcb-Idibaps Biobank and the Biological Fluid Bank in particular.
Thank you, Purva, for your nice presentation. So it's a pleasure for me to present our biobank. So I will briefly introduce myself. As you were saying, so I hold a PhD in biomedicine, and I have experience working as a researcher in translational projects mainly, especially about post-transcriptional changes linked to neurodegenerative and genetic diseases. Currently, I'm working as a biobanker. Specifically, I coordinate the Biological Fluids Bank, as you were saying, in the Hospital Clinic Idibaps, being the Idibaps an important research center associated to the hospital. So just to start, so here we have a presentation layout. So I will introduce the institution, then speak about our quality policy, our organization chart, our 3 areas of expertise, as you were saying, our 3 banks. Then how we fulfill the biobanking pillars at our biobank. Then I will explain our main objectives for this year and our future perspectives and our RDI projects as well. So I guess you all know where Barcelona is. We are based in the sunny Barcelona in Catalonia, in Spain. So our biobank has different facilities within the Hospital Clínic de Barcelona and the Institut d'Investigacions Biomèdiques August Pi i Sunyer. So we are the biobank from Hospital Clínic Idibaps, but we also have facilities in the Universitat de Barcelona, specifically for the Neurological Tissue Bank. Our biobank is a core facility from Idibaps Research Center, and we are based in the model of collaboration with the clinical services of the Hospital Clinic. We are officially authorized by our local government of Generalitat de Catalunya and also by the Spanish Public Health and Biomedical Institution, the Instituto de Salud Carlos III. And we are also accredited by the ISO 9001. So here is our quality policy. Here is our mission statement. So we aim to promote and develop biomedical research by providing availability of biological samples and associated data to our scientific community, following scientific and technical best practices. And we are always following the legislation and the bioethical principles. Our vision is to become the reference platform in our environment of Hospital Clinic, but also to consolidate our role at a national level and in an international level, in international networks, such as the Biosample Hub. And here are our values and principles. So first, to guarantee the quality and our continuous improvement. Then to provide excellent services and research assessment. Also to ensure the fulfillment of legal and ethical guidelines, to reinforce our professionalization through continuous training of our staff, and finally to encourage the teamwork and the personal motivation of all the team. Here you have our organization chart. We are a complex organization. We are composed by different advisory boards and committees, such as the Scientific External Committee, the Ethical Committee from Hospital Clinic, the Scientific Internal Committee, and we have our Scientific Director. And here is where our biobank staff, the pure team starts, starting from the biobank manager and the 3 different managers from the 3 areas. We also have inputs from clinical coordinators and a board of on-call assistants for the tissue dissection, and also board of pathologists. Interestingly, we also have a health documentation and data management area. And also at the Biological Fluids Bank, we are in charge of the freezing and storage service at our research institution. As you see, we are a complex team, and we are more than 20 people working together. Here you have our areas of expertise. So our sample banks As you said, Purva, we are structured in 3 banks that we work in collaboration, and we belong to the same biobank. So first we have the neurological tissue bank, which works in a model such as hospital-based, but also disease-based, as well as the tumors and tissue bank, so hospital-based and disease-based model. And finally, we have the biological fluids bank, the one I'm coordinating. We work following the hospital and also a collaborative-based model. As to summarize our 3 banks, we are organized such as we are experts in different diseases. So, of course, the neurological tissue bank is focused on the neurological and neurodegenerative mainly diseases, such as dementias and Parkinsonisms, among others. Then we have the tumors and tissue bank, where we work with frozen tissue from the surplus from diagnosis from the hospital of different kind of tumor diseases, and also control tissues as well. And finally, we have the biological fluids bank, where we work with a huge variety of diseases. And you have the variety here. So from metabolic and inflammatory diseases to respiratory to infectious to ancient DNA and control population. So here you have our areas of expertise and how we do. We are coordinated and we interact with different networks, such as national networks, but also in international. And also we recently joined the Biosample Hub. And here you have the sample banks activities that we perform in our 3 banks. So first, our aim is to procure good quality samples to the research community. We also collect and manage and assess all these sample recruitments. We also perform technical assessment, and we do support to experimental design from internal and external users. We also work for data management standardization. We work on quality controls. We process and we will trace all the samples that we work with and that we work for the custody of. We also coordinate multicentric sample processings and storages. We perform cell isolations. We work for the freezing and cryopreservation service. And finally, we perform tuned techniques such as laser microdissection, tissue microarrays, and some molecular isolations. I wanted to explain how we do fulfill the biobanking pillars. So at our biobank, we like to say that we have 3 main pillars, which are the legality, the traceability, and the quality. Regarding the legality, we work, of course, according to the legal frameworks. In Spain, it's mainly about 2 laws. So the Spanish law from 2007 and the Spanish law from 2011. And we, like all the biobanks, we have to provide an informed consent form. And we are so proud to have a single-page informed consent form, which allows the donors and also the clinicians to give it to the donors, and it's really donor-friendly, let's say. And this way, we guarantee that we will have the majority of the informed consent forms for our donors. I didn't say, but we have more than samples from more than 35,000 donors for fluid samples, then 2,000 donors from brain samples, and more than 1.5 million from tissue samples, from tumor samples. So regarding the traceability, we work with a LIMS system that is a well-known system, the NORI-banks, which allows us to follow all the steps of the samples from the recruiting and actually the withdrawal to the processing, the storage, the delivery, and the temperatures, etc. So it's really that we can guarantee all the traceability. We also work monitoring the majority of our procedures, and we work for coding and aliquoting all the samples. And finally, to guarantee the fulfillment of quality requirements, so we are accredited with the ISO 9001. We also standardize all the procedures, and we work for automatization. We expect the best of the training for our staff. So all the staff is with the highest level of qualifications. And recently, we have implemented a new data management pipeline, which allows us to follow also all these fulfillments of all the requirements. Then I wanted to explain our main objectives for this year, and for the last part of this year. So our biobank works in accordance with a strategic plan to include all kinds of actions to enhance the biobank sustainability. Okay, so first, we want to consolidate our biobank as a reference platform in our environment, and not only to provide human samples and associated data, but also to provide ethical and scientific assessment. We also aim to improve our efficiency and provide a prompt response to users and requesters and clients. We aim to increase the sample database to provide a multi-data phenotypes to make our catalog of samples and associated data the most attractive as possible, in a way to increase our value as a biobank. We aim to foster this way a high repository utilization rate. So we know from recent publications that the 10% of utilization rate is a quite gold standard, but we aim to reach the 15% of our utilization rate from the catalog. So we don't want to have like freezing, forever freeze samples, but we want them to be used. Also, we aim to diversify our partnerships. That's one of the main reasons why we joined your Biosample Hub consortium. So since 2019, we are SPL, so Service Provided Labs for pharmaceutical companies to provide services for clinical trials. We provide them with not only the technical service, but also the scientific assessment. We are also vendors for some of these pharmaceutical companies, and we join some external research projects. It's always a balance between the internal projects and the external research projects we can provide services to. And we want to engage to all kinds of outreach activities where, as much as possible, addressed to clinical services, researchers, the students, and also patients' associations. So we aim to build actions on patient engagement. And finally, as a proof of concept of our aim, of our objectives and how we handle all these needs. So we have, since the COVID-19 spread, we have funded the COVID Bank Biobank collection. And this is a proof of concept of how we balance sustainability and immediate response. I have to say that it's always thanks to a good amount of fundraising input, of course. Finally, I would like to mention the future perspectives and some RDI projects that we are currently working on at our biobank. So first, we are working on projects about DNA quality controls, and also we aim to do projects on other kind of samples quality controls. Interestingly, we have recently presented our last findings and our review of protocols in the last European Biobank Week from 2021. Secondly, we are working in different projects in data management, mainly two big projects. One is about the COVID Bank. So we aim to provide the best quality in clinical characterization of the samples and the donors. So to have a catalog of really enriched phenotype. This has we have presented our results in the last European Congress as well as a short oral communication, and also we have funding from the Instituto de Salud Carlos III in Spain, and we are currently doing a project, a multi-centric project, and our biobank is leading one project itself about mainly data management and also other aspects such as technical improvements and patient engagement. Also, we are doing an RDI project about optimization and modeling in cell isolation techniques. Then we are collaborating in an international interlab quality program project that is just starting, but is very promising. And finally, we are doing a collaboration in sample processing and procurement for diagnostic tool validations. So so here is my presentation. I would like to thank all the team from the Biobank, especially our coordinator, Dr. Rodriguez Villarrupla, and also all the team from the Biobank. You can reach us at this email address, so biobank@idibaps.org. And we would like to reply all kind of requests that you have about sample procurement or any question that you can have about our Biobank. So thank you very much for your attention. I don't know if you have questions.
Thank you, Teresa, for a wonderful presentation. It was very informative. So any questions? You can put in your questions in the question bank. Okay, so there's one question from Kate Page. So thank you, Dr. Orfilia. The biobank looks very interesting and matches our interest in ADPD, FTD, and ALS. I have many questions and will contact you via email after the webinar. So, yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, so there's one more question from Riyadh. 3 types of biobanking. Do you use the same consent form for all the types of biobanks?
Yeah, so before 2018, we were using similar consent forms because of the particularities of the sample entries to the 3 banks. But in 2018, we consented so we did an agreement with the ethical committee, and we have a single consent form. Anyways, for the neurological tissue bank, we have specific consent form variations because, of course, these are autopsy. So these are donations from autopsies. So we have to have either the consent form from the patient or the tutor, or we can obtain a waiver. Also, for the tumor and tissue bank, we sometimes have to request the waiver to the ethical committee, of course, following some approved guidelines. And finally, for the biological tissue bank, it's really anecdotic when we have to ask for the waiver, but it's an option. But anyways, we always provide this consent form to our clinicians. And we have recently approved not only our center informed consent form, but a blank multicentric consent form. This way, we allow the multicentric coordination. So if there's an external hospital who wills to collaborate with us, they can request, they can visit the patient and request the informed consent form. Then the sample is sent to our biobank. We process it, we store it, and we can procure it as our own sample. So it has to be that the donor allows the sample we throw in a hospital center, and then the sample storage and processing here.
Okay. So there's another question from Catherine. When you talk about coding and aliquoting, do you take the specimen aliquot, then freeze them? How do you process your frozen samples, especially the brain tissues? Do you thaw them out for use in your research?
Well, so regarding the brain tissue, from the extraction, so from the autopsy, we process the half of the brain for formal storage. That afterwards the pathologists will dissect the tissue and separate all the areas, and also work for the diagnosis. And then we do with the other half of the brain and the spinal cord, we do a slide, so flash frozen. We work for the flash frozen tissue that will then be part of this catalog of samples to be procured to requesters. Okay, so this is how we handle the brain tissue and the neurological tissue as well.
Okay. So I have a small question. Do you have any advice to the companies on how they can make their sample requests more feasible or more realistic? And what are the time limits and quality of materials which are requested generally? And if they ask for consent forms and all the other clinical information, what kind of clinical information can you provide?
Yeah, so we have an approved and a single request form that is within our ISO quality system. So if there's any request, we will send this form to the requester. Then we will ask an approval by an ethical committee regarding the project where the samples will be used. Then about the quality, we work with the standard, with the highest standard that the ISO 9001 allows us to do. And also for external companies such as biotechs, so our staff also has to fulfill some extra requirements, such as some external audits. So we not only have the ISO 9001 internal and external audits, but we also have the audits from the pharmaceutical companies. It will depend on the requirements of each company. Of course, we are so flexible, and it will depend on the client's requirements. And the first thing is to agree on a meeting and see the requirements, and if we can fulfill all the criterion. And yeah, and we have the best, so the professionals that have the best qualifications, and we are also in continuous training. As a proof of concept for the last clinical trials that we are currently collaborating with, we really had to work on some clinical trial complementary training, and we have some complementary accreditation. So yes, it's like it's compulsory for us to keep on the continuous training. And yeah, and normally we fulfill all these audits, and the first step is that the company will evaluate our sample, and if it fulfills the audit requirement, then we can provide all the services.
Thank you so much, Teresa.